So I was wondering to myself, by the way, Hat Pixman here again. I was wondering to myself, why don't you do the things that you like to do anymore? And I thought to myself, what is it that I like to do? And after a little contemplation, I realized the things that one of my favorite things to do is honestly just to entertain people, and the best way that I know how to do that is by telling wacky and what I feel to be interesting stories. And honestly, the best way I know how to do that is getting people involved with that. And I've been writing this one thing for the longest time, like 5 years now, and it's only been gone to like a relatively small amount of people so far. I've looks like 13 people I've shared it with. Excuse me. Um, yeah. But you know what? I'm planning on changing that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start reading it. I'm just gonna start reading and go, because even if this only reaches 2 people and I only get 2 views, that's 2 more people than I would without it. So here we go. So this is Reflection. Basic premise, you'll figure that out, but it's a fantasy novel that I've been writing since about 7th grade. I hope that you can tell that I hope you can tell my writing gets better as it goes on. It's probably still not good now, but it's better. So all this started in the 7th grade, and it was kind of prompted by a fight with one of my teachers, which I talk about near the beginning. Um, or at least the main character talks about in the beginning. It's a first-person one. The original plan was to have like it be a survival novel, in this strange new magical world, but it kind of spiraled, and then it became different and became a cross between a couple different fictional worlds that I know. Yeah. So this is Reflection, Chapter 1. I'm working on turning and putting chapters in, but yeah. Well, yeah, here's the beginning of Reflection. We didn't know what we expected, but it certainly wasn't this. The morning before, I was in the assistant principal's office. I was getting issued my first ISS of the year, which for November was kind of an achievement for me, seeing that I wasn't exactly the most well-behaved of Team 7-2. Oh, you don't know what I mean by that? Let me show you the camera a little bit. You don't know what I mean by that? Well, let me explain. In my school, the school is obviously divided up between grades, but there are so many students in each grade that they're divided up into 3 teams each. In the case of my grade, there's teams 7-1, 7-2, and 7-3. So the grade is the first number and the team is the second. But I digress. The reason for the ISS was, well, they called it insubordination. I called it sitting in my chair weird and slightly correcting my teacher. How weird? And how slightly? Well, let me paint you a picture. I'm sitting in my class doing group work, and one group asks, would it be okay for us to use ghosts in our story? And my teacher, we'll call her Mrs. Jin, said, no, we're only doing realistic stories. About a minute later, I walked over to the trash can to throw something away, and I passed Mrs. Jin, and I quietly said, it could be argued that ghosts are realistic. So she wrote me up. I also sat in a chair weird, on the back of it, which in hindsight would definitely be really weird. I didn't write that part in yet. And I didn't sit normally, despite her telling me several times. But back to the present. I stepped out of my room in the morning, and I looked into the mirror. Instead of giving myself a fist bump, like I usually do, I just flipped myself a bird. Probably because I hated all the decisions I've been making recently, but that's when I noticed the paper taped on the back of the mirror. It said these words: look in the mirror and say your three most beloved things. If you are truthful, you will be set free. Set free? I thought. I'm already free. It's not like I'm enslaved in some mind somewhere. I thought about it all throughout the day, through ISS, and then I realized ISS is the confinement. When I got home, I went straight to the mirror and said my three things. After I realized the confinement, I also realized that my girlfriend, my family, and God weren't the most beloved things. The things that I loved were a little more like not my family. And apparently the mirror, or whatever guides the mirror, judged me worthy, some text in the glass read, clear as day. This is where things got trippy and magical, literally. Suddenly I felt a burning sensation so hot that it felt cold. That doesn't even make any sense. Then as fast as it started, it faded away. But then I opened my eyes and I found myself alone in a field. The entire world looked as though it had lens flares. So I reached up to my eyes and my glasses were gone. I can't do that. Which wasn't too terrible because I can see about 3 feet in front of me without things getting blurry, so I decided to explore. It looked as though it was for no... I looked as though for an overdue project or my survival, which the latter might be true. The area in which I had dropped was a vast, open area of the greenest grass. Trees were scattered at long distances. I walked up to one and I saw apples of the perfect shade of red. I plucked it from the branch with a satisfying snap. As I bit into it and the cool juices flowed out, I realized it was the best apple I'd ever had. What's up, dude? Someone said, causing me to scream like a little girl. I spun around to find a short, blonde kid. He seemed as though he was in my grade, roughly 5'6". He wasn't my giant height, but brains, height, and experience are all separate issues. Hi, I said awkwardly. You know you're not the only one here, right? He questioned. I thought I was. All I saw was the field, I protested. So did I, until I saw you reveling in that apple there, he pointed out. Okay, new topic. Who are you? What are you doing here? And how long have you been here? How did you get here? Oh, that should have been in my voice. Whoops. That was... Okay. Okay, Colin, I don't know, 10 minutes. And a mirror. How about you? Caleb, same. 2-ish minutes and also a mirror. There was a moment of awkward silence as we stood there, thinking of what to do and what to say. But before either of us could get a word out, a blinding light emitting from the closest field shined. A tall woman appeared, announcing, Welcome to Meroria. Once again there was a quiet moment of silence while we gathered our thoughts. While Colin had a look of wonder on his face, my expression was a bit more quizzical. What the flux capacitor? I were the first words out of my mouth. The woman spoke. Flux capacitor. That's a first. Colin then piped up. What do you mean, a first? Then, with another blinding light, ma'am, what are we looking at? I said, I don't have my glasses. It took her a moment to realize what I had said, but with a flick of her wrist and a small sparkle, I could see just fine. At first my reaction was general surprise, but next it was in suspicion. Alright, magic is a thing here, I guess. That's a thing. And then, it's a castle, by the way, the woman exclaims, Oh, it's more than just a thing, it's our very being. Oh, I'm gonna head back at Crazy Town and back to my... I turned to see many castles, all decorated with their own unique flag. They were situated in a ring that encircled a much larger castle. The castle seemed to be a fine compromise of all the other smaller ones. What is this place? The woman spoke up. As I said, Welcome to Mororia. Yeah, I get that. I mean, what do you do here? What is Mororia? There is much to explain, but you'll hear everything you need to know at orientation. But for more information on anything that won't be discussed during orientation, please consult the touchscreen in your living room. For now, please adjourn to your castle, that one that you wanted to appear. I agreed, but before I could set off, Colin had a question. What's your name? She responded quite abruptly. Oh dang, I'm always forgetting to tell you guys that. Well, thanks for reminding me, by the way. My name is Nadia Flair. Now, if you'll please excuse me, it appears as though the next pair have arrived, so I should get to them. If you have any other questions, please consult your touchscreens. So we made our way to the castle, and as we walked in, we were overtaken by how beautiful this place was. It was huge. Everything was decorated exactly how I would want my own place to be. And I'm like, dude, do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? Then he gave me the perfect response. You mean the entire building decorated in the two best colors ever, covered in art from the world's biggest video games, a couple movies, and a book? Yo. We found ourselves in a cylindrical room with 8 doors, labeled left to right, Caleb, lined in a turquoise color, a kitchen, game room, laundry room, bathroom, elevator, some weird plus sign, and Colin lined in a golden color. Smack dab in the middle of all those doors was a giant screen, just as Nadia had spoke of. The touchscreen had many words on it, such as schedule and mute. The first thing I thought was, man, I have every possible color of marker sitting on that tray. This is the perfect time to draw. We grabbed markers and just went to work. I got a yellow and drew a symbol from one of my favorite game series, but before I could get even halfway through color the wisdom triangle, I heard a voice. Stop drawing on me. Right after I erased what I had drawn, a screen faded in on the touchscreen, showing a man's face. Hey, what do I look like, a canvas? Colin answered. Well, to us, yeah, pretty much. Whoops, I forgot I was so assigned 2 artistic nerds. Alright, what do you want? I asked him a few questions. Who and what the heck are you? What are you supposed to do what are we supposed to do at the aforementioned orientation? And he gave answers about as fast as I asked questions. I'm Leonard. I'm your touchscreen. I give information and transmit messages between castles. Orientation is where Nadia will explain how Mororia works, rules, schedules, and that sort of thing. Since I had this info, now Colin had a question. How long until orientation, and what are we supposed to do until then? He had an answer. My, you're quite inquisitive. Well, the time when the orientation varies on how long it takes to get the castle's complete ring around the hilltop, the main castle. Until then, it would be wise for you to create your castle's flag. It seemed like a good idea, but to us, what seemed like a better idea was a self-tour of the castle, and then a nap. With the tour, we started at Colin's room. His room was painted that golden color and decorated with all stuff he loved. It even had a trophy shelf filled to the brim with all the trophies he had back on Earth. He seemed to be happy at first, and then he got kind of an odd look on his face. Next, we went to the kitchen, and it was kind of a normal kitchen. Stove, oven, grills, cabinets, a sink, etc. The only absent thing that's in most kitchens was a dishwasher. Instead, it just had a 1-by-1 foot drawer that was labeled dirty dishes. To test it, I took a glass, drank some water, because seriously, I'd be worried if I wasn't thirsty at this point. Then I put the glass into the drawer, hit a button next to the drawer that was labeled clean, and once I pressed it, I heard a quick suction sound. When I checked the drawer, the glass was gone. I looked in the cabinet, and the cup was back right where I grabbed it, and it was sparkling clean. As we explored further, we discovered that the fridge, freezer, and food cabinets were all fully stocked with some pretty good food. They were fairly healthy as well. Yo, Colin, can you cook? Yeah, kinda good. How's about you? He inquired. Wow, two things. One, I've never heard anybody else use the phrase, how's about you, before, and that's awesome. And secondly, I'm kinda good at cooking, I responded. Next, we moved on to the game room, and well, take your favorite thing ever, and now diversify it and take away the sucky parts of it, put it into your room, and that's how it felt like walking into this game room. It had every single video game system in existence, except for the terrible ones. I'm looking at you, Virtual Boy. And every single good video game that went on the systems. There were four 97-inch flat screen TVs. I turned them on and turned the lights off, and you could see the screen, but you couldn't see anything else. And looking at the screen was as though you were looking through the clearest window in existence. There were optional headphones that you could use. It was basically it has basically every feature imaginable that could make a gaming experience more awesome. Oh, and the couches. I sat down on one. It felt like I was sitting on a cloud. Now, enough about the greatest dang room ever in existence. There wasn't really anything special about the laundry room except for its deliverer cabinet. I didn't really know what it does until we needed to do laundry. Then we went to my room, which is kind of like Colin's, except it was turquoise instead of golden, and there was no trophies. I didn't really get out much before I left Earth.